Hey freaks, Scuttlenock here. You ever wonder why when you're listening to your favorite comedian, they can make you blow coke out your nose? Why Weasley Dan with the gimpy dick from HR was able to land that date with you? Or when you hear a riveting inspirational speech from a politician, you sometimes actually believe them? It's not coincidence. There's a very simple reason for it. It's about language. Not specifically cadence or confidence, those play their parts for sure, but here I'm talking about syntax. Syntax. It's how our language takes form, the guiding principles that dictate how a sentence and sentences should be structured. It's something that most people who speak have a good enough grasp on to get their point across, but some people, like the ones I've just mentioned, know how to leverage syntax in their favor to make their message sound more appealing, just within the base language itself. Let me give you an example. I've only been doing this for 5 years. I've been at this for half a decade. One of these statements sounds more impressive. The context hasn't changed. The ultimate message is essentially the same. It's that descriptive language which shapes the demeanor of the audience into believing the message is more impactful. It's coercive and manipulative. But we do it all the time. Just about everybody's guilty of it, most of the time without even knowing it. You ever hear your stomach grumbling and you look over at your buddy and say, "I'm starving." No, you aren't. You're hungry. The Nigerians and South Sudanese are starving. I mean, I guess technically you're starving. The belly being empty is the beginning of starving, but the Twinkies and ding-dongs are likely just a few very heavy steps away. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about hyperbole here. That would be saying something extreme and untrue to instigate an immediate reaction. I'm talking specifically about carefully choosing words to pre-frame a message to get your audience lubricated. As I said before, there are some people who know about this phenomenon, and they use it to their advantage as often as possible as a sort of verbal padding. The news media do it all the time. Lawyers employ it on a daily basis. Tactical syntax. But it's smoke and mirrors, folks. Take your time, listen carefully, and you'll see what kind of bullshit people are peddling. Keep in mind we all do this, so try to keep a keen eye out for the truly stunning specimens. Here's another pair of phrases the chromosomally challenged like to pull out on you. Pro-life and pro-choice. Don't worry, I'm just talking about language here. But pro-life and pro-choice? What the fuck is this shit? Say what you mean, goddammit! You're either pro-abortion or you're anti-abortion. Or you're like me, in which the alien overlords would demagnetize the planet and freeze the Earth's core. Pro-life and pro-choice are ways of pre-framing the argument in a particular direction, and neither one is inaccurate per se. But they completely belittle the interdeveloping intricacies and nuances of the core action. This isn't the same thing as, say, a preference for hot dogs or hamburgers. You're never going to hear this argument on a busy street corner. I'm pro-puck-shaped steer meat. Oh yeah? Well, I'm pro-big guts stuffed into an organ sock. Doesn't really have the same tone to it. Maybe it's because hot dogs and hamburgers are two separate things. Really, most children up until about the age of, let's say, 7 are little more than semi-autonomous parasites, and up until 2 years of age after birth still largely dependent on the mother for nutrients. Here's something I'd like to see. A national debate around the rights and conditions of ticks and tapeworms. Life and choice. It's a false dichotomy that's totally beleaguered by outdated notions about the sanctity of life that surround it. The US government kills people all the fucking time. Nobody seems to give a shit. Nobody cares. Millions upon millions killed in war or due to drugs, or they're dying in the streets broken cold, and nobody fucking cares about it. We're poisoning our drinking water by polluting the rivers and oceans with mountains of plastic crap and chemical runoff. Gangs are actively murdering each other in the streets over cheesesteaks and starter jackets and loads of other useless junk. I like to think somewhere, right now, a teenage daughter is plotting to kill her soggy, overbearing yuppie Gen X parents with a set of tweezers and a croquet mallet. If there's one thing that humans do better than any other species, it's killing humans. And by the by, if you want to convince me that there's something sacred about life, you're going to have to do a hell of a lot better than some idiotic, unprecedented, and non-evidential notion of a reward for good behavior that you're only given well after you've lost the ability to experience anything, handed to you by an invisible master that only loves you if you do everything exactly the way somebody who claims to know him says he wants it done. Pro-life is just another pre-contextualized loaded term meant to convince people to be compliant slaves to an otherwise antediluvian ideology. Politicized, emotionally charged bullshit. Not totally indifferent from the term pro-choice, actually. What even is that? The decision to buy denim over khakis? Get the fuck out of here. The government and corporate oligarchs stole your autonomy a long time ago. You're not getting it back, folks. Feel free to entertain obtuse delusions of grandeur. I'll be watering the garden and threatening to boil my cat. How about when a news outlet labels themselves as trusted, objective, or credible? Something about that's just so fucking slimy. Like when the dentist puts you under and you wake up a little less hungry than when you came in. But they're given ample reason to keep up the charade so long as the porridge-brained Nimrods keep coming back for more. And speaking of the news, don't you think these headlines are getting just a little fucking unhinged, huh? Just a little bit, don't you think? Lower than average college acceptance rates becomes young adults dumber than ever before. Not entirely inconceivable. Balloon animal artist surprises patients in children's hospital becomes man blows multiple giraffes. Kids shocked. The fucking audacity. And they know what they're doing. They know people have ever-dwindling IQs and attention spans the length of a rat's dick. They know that as long as they bury the factual parts of the story in paragraph 12, they're keeping the lawyers off their ass and the advertisers happy. They know that by the end of the headline and first paragraph, they can get people to believe whatever it is they want them to, and they'll fuck right off into the night whistling zippity-doo-dah without so much as a second thought. That's the real power of tactical syntax. It's slick, polyester-laden language meant to displace the speaker from the true content of which they speak. An intellectual rope-a-dope, a devil with a box of donuts. So keep your eyes on the bullshit, folks. The new Silk Road is paved in it.